got their phones, so they know what the real time is. Okay, 5:30, having arrived, I'm going to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at the onset of the meeting, I would note that Chairman Pittman is obviously not with us this evening, and I will take his position as vice chair. Be patient with me. It's been quite a while since I chaired a meeting. Start with the review of outstanding minutes, and I believe we've got the minutes of January 28th with us. I don't know if people have had a chance to review those.
I'll move to approve the minutes of January 28th.
Second.
Okay, we've got Fred and Cindy with the second.
There's one thing that was brought to my attention by Chairman Pittman. Page 2, line 29, warrant Article 5, which is the COLA, is not 132,000.
I think it's more like, what was that, 37 something?
32,007 something. I will double check that figure.
Okay. Any other corrections or concerns with the minutes? Hearing none, those in favor of accepting the minutes of January 28th as presented?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Okay, I will move to accounts payable. We have a grand total on the accounts payable of $1,089,920.06. Clearly, a significant chunk of this, $1 million even, is going to the school.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Fred and Jeff, discussion. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Is there a second sheet to that, by any chance? On the front. Nope, okay. Guess I'm thinking of payroll. No, never mind, payroll manifest here. Was this the only payroll manifest? Okay, I thought I saw one for 847.
Oh, these guys are working last year.
Okay, I have two payroll manifests that are out of order with the regular payroll. The first is gross payroll of $7,464.96 with a net of $5,870.53. And this is Officer Dan Direman's final pay that includes vacation and personal time that he was entitled to.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Fred and Jeff.
We need a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing no discussion, those in favor of approving the payroll manifest for Officer Direman's final pay?
Aye.
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. Have an additional payroll manifest that grosses at $1,012.04 with a net of $842.20, and this is for payments to Denise Gregg and Judith Marshall.
Make a motion, we accept the payroll manifest?
Second.
Okay, the motion by Jeff with a second by Fred. Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye. just follow up on that, I guess, I wasn't aware that Officer Dan is no longer with us.
Yes, I believe Thursday was his last shift. I know that he had some discussion with the police chief. I think that initially he was going to give a 2-week notice, but I think because of he's taken a position with the state and actually speeded up the notice in order to take the position when they wanted him to in Concord. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I have a list of candidates that have been put forward to serve as deputy forest fire wardens for the town of Deerfield. I'm going to read the totality of the names and would entertain a motion in a second, and then we can discuss if we need to. I think the names are familiar to all of us as forest fire wardens previously, for the most part. The first is Diane Kimball. Second is John Dubianski. Third is Matthew Kimball. The fourth is Jeffrey Smith. Fifth is Alex Cody, and the sixth is Richard Butler.
Make a motion to approve the nominations.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Motion by Fred, second by Cindy. These have been signed off on by the Forest Fire Warden. Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of appointing the candidates as read?
Aye.
Actually, I'll start these down, there's a bunch of them. And there's not enough spaces, so if you don't want to sign, feel free not to, or sign next to another signature.
Squeeze it in.
I'll sign John's. I'm running out of ink.
Thank you, sir, but he didn't dare leave it, so you'll bring it one night this week. So that was kind of nice.
Goes with those.
Get a blue one.
That works better. Where's that?
Oh, well, there is,
He's one of the ones that asked Marcel and you to
all right, all right.
give me a call. This is blue, does it matter?
Doesn't matter to me. Thank you.
Get your own pens? Oh,
All right.
Okay, we have 3 applications for property tax credits or exemptions. All 3 are for veterans credits of $500. The first is for Adam Hanson of 48 Old Center Road, and the paperwork appears to be in order, and he is eligible. Would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Fred and a second by Jeff.
Could you say that last name again?
Yes, it's Hanson, Hanson.
Thank you. That's the one Coco goes to.
I need a vote, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor of granting the veterans tax credit to Mr. Hanson?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, it's really hard to take my signature back. We have a second application for veterans credit, $500 from Emily Hanson, also of 48 Old Center Road.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Fred and a second by Cindy. No discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Could you check and make sure I check granted on that? On the right. Just anyone can,
No.
but just check the. Right there, yep. And we have one more application for a veterans tax credit, again, $500, and this is Paul Courtwright of 210 South Road.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Fred. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of granting the exemption?
Aye.
Okay, the last thing we have in the signature file is the agreement with Cartographic Associates, Inc., CAI, for maintenance of the online Deerfield property records for the upcoming year, that year running April 1st, 2019 through March 31st of 2020. This is a contract for $3,300 to update and maintain the records. There is an additional $15 charge if we want the footprints of the buildings included, which we have done in the past for new pickups. I would need a motion for us to sign this and move forward with it if the board is so moved.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. I would say that I think the town, there are a number of people in town use this pretty regularly, and it's certainly a benefit to municipal boards and that sort of thing to be able to look at the boundaries online.
I think it's good to have the buildings on there, too.
Yep. Okay, if there's no further discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? This is the signatures. Let's go to everybody, John, or just, that's from Kelly.
I didn't make a copy for you.
Okay, I'll move on to correspondence. In the correspondence file, the primary thing that we have is a notice of regional impact from the town of Gilmington. This is in regard to a cell phone tower that's being constructed in the area of 53 Siebel Road in Gilmington, and we're invited to attend the planning board approval if so desired, if anyone wants to. The date and time is Thursday, February 14th, Valentine's Day at 7 p.m. at the Academy Building in downtown Gilmington.
Okay.
In addition, and I'm going to just pull this out of here because it is indeed correspondence, even though I think it's in your personal files, and I see someone in the audience that may want to speak to this. We received a letter from Skycom Security addressing some concerns he had, and I see Mr. Aslan is with us in the audience, and I didn't know if you wanted to address this with the board.
Well, I want the board to address it, for sure.
Okay. Did you have any particular action you wanted taken?
Yeah, I want you to revisit that awarding, since I was a low bidder. Plus, I've been with this town on the alarm system for 16 years plus.
Okay, I think probably what I will do is read the letter for the record, so we've got it. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think I would wait until we have a complete board to decide whether we want to revisit the issuance, but bear with me for a second. This letter is from Skycom Security, 2 Blue Heron Lane, Deerfield, New Hampshire. It's addressed to the Town of Deerfield Board of Selectmen. It's in regard to the January 14th minutes, which the author, Paul Aslan, clearly reviewed. This is to inform you of the incorrect information you received from Mr. Ellis. Mr. Ellis called me to report that the trouble alarm was going off at the town hall and it had not reported to the central office. I told him that I would look into the problem the next day since I had a radio unit on main fire alarm that would activate if an actual fire alarm was activated. Upon visiting the site, I found that the town hall telephone line was not functional, which Mr. Ellis relayed to the town manager. Therefore, the town hall was not unprotected since the radio system I installed at no charge was working. The town hall pump system was not hooked up to the main fire trouble alarm, which you recently paid RB Lewis to accomplish, even though they had taken over the account for maintenance from Simplex. Mr. Ellis is not an expert on alarm systems. He failed to relay the numerous calls. I have visited the town sites without billing the town. In reference to the town hall pump system, this pump should not activate unless the town hall sprinkler system has been triggered or there is a fault in pump house equipment, which is presently being maintained by RB Lewis. In the last paragraph of page 2, Mr. Ellis depicts that he clearly favors RB Lewis solely based on the town hall fire troubles mainly caused by pump house equipment. The town manager asked me for a proposal, and I gave him a quote of $3,600 for monitoring since I am normally in town and can respond to problems. If I am not in the area, I have another tech who fills in for me. It should be noted that the cost of replacing the equipment would exceed $5,000 if I removed my equipment, not including the early termination fee as per our agreement, which would exceed $1,800. I believe the board should revisit their actions on the monitoring agreement due to the false statements and financial burden to us property taxpayers. We have been providing alarm monitoring services to Deerfield's town buildings for more than 16 years, and no losses have occurred. We have currently upgraded radio transmitters in 5 town buildings. I guess at this point, as stated, we can reconsider, but I would recommend doing it when we have a full board and we've had a chance to investigate maybe a little bit of the content of the letter as well. That said, I would also, because I gave Mr. Aslan a chance to respond to this, I would certainly give Mr. Ellis a chance to respond now if he wants to, or if he wants to come back to the board at a later time and talk with us.
Well,
And if you are going to respond, please go to the microphone.
The only thing I want to bring to your attention is, those are his words, not my words. Those are statements that he has wrote that I did not say. Some of that that he put down there is the question of when I called him, he was in Florida. He said he'd be back in the next day or so and he'd check it out. Since then, I found out that they were hauling salt in and out of the highway garage out back, and apparently they'd taken down all the wires. Somebody had curled the wires up against the telephone pole, didn't see the wires, so we had the phone company come in and check it. The phone company came in and checked it and rehooked the wires up and said that it was incorrectly hooked up. And I said, well, I don't know. As he had already stated, I am not an expert in alarm systems, and nor do I claim to be. So I said, okay, well, we'll have to look into that. And Paul went down in the next day and went in, checked it, and we told him that the phone lines were down and they were going to put them back up. And as far as his tech, I have never seen another tech other than Paul. Never got a call from anybody else. Paul's the only one that's ever answered the calls. He does answer my calls, whether he's in town or not. I don't think that he was doing a bad job. I just know that a lot of the equipment that we have hasn't been working 100% lately. He says it is, but right now the Bicentennial Field, the alarm went off 3 times in one day, never got a call. And as far as I know, it's still that way. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth Paul because I think that Paul tries to do a great job, and I just don't believe that everything that he said on that paper was my statements. Those are in his words.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and I think we've got Paul's written comments. You've had a chance to respond, and the board will take it under advisement. I will say we're not going to make a decision this evening unless the 3 of you wish to overrule me.
I wasn't here for that vote, so I couldn't call for a reconsideration on the vote because I wasn't in the majority, so.
Okay, let's hold off until we're a full board, and we can decide whether we want to revisit or not.
Mhm.
All right, well, the reason.
If you're going to respond, could I
Thank
get you to go to the microphone too?
As far as the comments, Ray, Ray has on the, I took him out of the minutes of the 14th. That's where I took his comments off. So that's why I responded to those comments. Other than that, I mean, I don't understand why this board didn't take the lowest bidder, as well as the cost of the equipment to be replaced would cost the town and us taxpayers money. So therefore, I would like to be at the meeting when you decide what's going on, and so I'll see what I want to do about further action.
Okay, we'll certainly take that under advisement, and we can let you know when that's going to be on the agenda. Okay, I don't have any other correspondence. Guess I would move to the town administrator's report at this time.
I have two items I'm coming back to the board with. You had looked for answers. One was concerning the Avatar mailing letter that you recently looked at last meeting, and I contacted Avatar. They gave me an approximate cost of $600 for the mailing costs based on what they normally do in a year. And I checked with Mark Young concerning the theft and damage of the private road signs, and he informed me that they already have anti-theft hardware on them. So what's happening is they're either taking the entire post out or sawing it off somehow to take them. But in his estimation, there's not much more he can do to secure the signs to the posts.
Okay.
Any action one wishes to propose at this juncture?
Other than putting up video cameras on each sign that gets stolen, I guess it's not too much we can do.
Okay. Moving down the list, we've got the fireworks ordinance listed, John.
Yeah, we had, I put something together based on what, I think it was Chesterfield's ordinance, and it passed out to the board members, and I also included copies of the pertinent statutes that are referenced in that Chesterfield ordinance. And one of the interesting items is that the ordinance can either be adopted by town meeting or can be adopted by the Board of Selectmen following a public hearing. And I think to be able to, if it was an ordinance presented at town meeting, you can't take and adjust it. It's you either vote for it or vote against it, and you can't turn around and adjust it based upon some point that was brought up at town meeting itself. So I think going the selectmen's route, it would be preferable, and again, following at least one public hearing to discuss it. So that would certainly be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's a solid recommendation, and it would give us the opportunity to include the fire chief and the police chief at the public hearing too for their input.
Right.
I don't know if the board has thoughts with regard to a timeline, but maybe if this was something we adopted in late spring,
Mm-hmm.
prior to 3-day holiday weekends and the 4th of July and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the ordinance itself specifically allows fireworks July 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and also New Year's Eve, and I don't know if New Year's Day too or not, but those are the exemptions to the ordinance. Other than that, it would require a permit to be issued by the town for the fireworks. And the question would end up being, do we do it through the town administrator or the fire chief, or a combination of the two? That'd be up to the board and what we get from public hearings too. My wife did point out to me that we could have a situation in middle of July or early July that have a situation where we have high potential forest fire danger, and there should be something in there that if that in fact does occur, that it could eliminate those days except by permit, by specific permit.
Nope, I would agree. We've likely got a specific time frame for noticing a public hearing, and I think if you could look into that for us, John, so we could get going sooner rather than later. And I think your point, although people might like to be able to vote on it on the actual ballot, leaving the Board of Selectmen with the ability to adjust it as necessary, I think actually gives both those in favor of lots of fireworks and those against a little fairer shake to
Right.
get reasonable treatment.
Have we had the fire chief look at the ordinance?
I don't think so.
Have you seen it? The ordinance?
Forward to it.
Yeah, if we could get copies to both the fire chief and the police chief, who's likely to have his personnel responding. Okay, and we do have an updated town hall rental agreement as well in our packets. I don't know if this encompasses all the changes that were suggested at the last meeting prior to. I think both Jeff and Fred had recommendations. My recollection is, in particular, not limiting the reimbursement for costs of cleaning and damages to $50, but
Right.
making that the standardized fee, but it looks like that has indeed been incorporated at the bottom of page 1.
Yeah, I thought there was something on there about pets and animals being restricted. And that was one of my comments to therapy dog or animals.
I looked at that. That was actually a document that went to another situation, not to the town hall.
Oh, okay,
That's why you don't see it.
okay.
So it's the new
Yeah, certainly
agreement.
addresses the issues that I brought up.
If the new agreement is agreeable, I would entertain a motion to accept it as presented.
I got one question. There is a line in here for eligible nonprofits, the rental fee is $75. Does that mean that we can still waive, don't waive, or what's the intent?
I think the board always has the option to waive. I highlighted that section in case you wanted to adjust the price in any way.
Mhm.
Yeah, we typically have waived for just about
Everything.
anybody that comes close to
Nonprofit.
qualifying as a nonprofit. but-
Yeah.
And the security personnel, we have a blank as far as the dollar sign is concerned. Is that intentional? At
Yes,
this point, okay.
Yes.
And that would be filled in at the time the,
if it was deemed necessary to have it, that's why I put the disclaimer at the top of that paragraph.
you ready for a motion?
At any point,
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the revised town hall rental agreement.
is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of accepting the town hall rental agreement as revised?
Aye. All right.
Those opposed? Are you opposing it?
No,
or-
I-
Okay. Okay. Actually, do we need to sign this, John? or- No.
Yeah.
All right,
If this wasn't done.
the folks from Rainbow Bridge are not going to be joining us this evening to discuss the composting lease agreements off of Brown Road. I think everyone's aware, John has provided some additional information that Denny was able to find on the Cornell Waste Management site, and as I recollect, at least one of the parties of the three behind Rainbow Bridge was also has a certification from the University of Maine in composting management. New business.
None for me.
Other business. There's no other business. Before citizens' comments, I'd like to give Mrs. Katie a chance to present some information that she has regarding Safety Services Complex, I believe. Absolutely.
This is
If you want.
dated 2006.
2016 for the Farmington Safety Complex that seems to have everything that we started out with. I can't leave it with you, but you're welcome to look through it through tonight, and I'll take it because Farmington asked me not to leave the, showing the plans because of possible terrorists. But the price was 2.34 million.
That
And,
was 2 years ago.
well, they built it after. The design was done, but they got in it last year, they said. So anyways, the point is, the cost seems very reasonable compared to what I've been hearing about safety complexes.
I appreciate the presentation, and I did make note of the construction firm. This was a design-build contract, according to information Mrs. Katie gave me before the meeting started, and it was Grown Construction out of Exeter. So we'll certainly bring this to the attention of the Police Department Building Committee and maybe take a visit.
I'll have those plans if you have a meeting of the police building committee and you want to have them see them.
Okay, thank you.
Groans out of Rochester.
Rochester. Matt, did you want to address us? I'm sorry, before I move to citizens' comments.
See if I could take it. Draw a line there and that'll let it live.
I meant fire chief, not Matt.
That's fine. So a couple things I wanted to touch base on tonight. One was following up on the offices at the fire station that before the end of the year, the board had agreed to go with the price we received from Rusty Truck Construction. I did bring a few of the concerns that the board had that night. If I remember correctly, there was a comment that we might want to look into 3-foot doors, as well as looking for some more information in regards to the 50% deposit. While I was away on vacation, Rusty Truck Construction was able to drop off a new estimate that does reflect the 3-foot doors. After the conversation him and I had, it seems like he's still sticking with a 50% deposit. The price did increase from $7,000 to $7,200 with a $3,600 deposit due at the beginning of the project. I do have this information. He did include a materials list, so I'll bring that up to you guys to review, as well as I believe there was some conversation internally, and there was a rough estimate of material that Mr. Ellis was able to generate.
Great, we can take a look at that and address it probably at our next meeting. Thank you. If you want to hold on to that, make it available to members.
Who was that from?
Dana Johnson.
Yep. I was going to say, I myself am not that concerned about the amount of deposit, as the contractor lives within a half a mile or so of the fire department, and we could send some firemen up to his driveway if need be. And anything else?
Yeah, so if you guys are good with the updated price, I'd be happy to move forward with it, but if we want to review it till the next meeting, that's up to you guys.
We should hold on and review it and then have a meeting, vote on it.
Okay. Is that the general agreement of the board that you'd like to take a look at this and review it before making a decision?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Not hearing anything different, I think we're going to hang on to it
Okay.
for another week or two.
And then lastly, for the past few months, Ray's been helping me trying to find some prices and get a contractor to come down to look at the rear roof of the fire station that's above the old rescue bay and the generator room. Been pretty unsuccessful with that so far. We touched upon it again today, and he was able to make contact with hopefully at least 1 or 2 people that will actually come out and look at it to give us a price. to redo the roof and do the mold, start the project, because there's some mold that needs to be removed and all that sort of work. My question to the board is, would this fall under using the funds from the expendable trust fund for building maintenance? Because
Yeah, I think it could certainly fall under that category. I think it's going to depend on how much funding you need and how much funding we've got.
okay.
But to my mind, it would certainly fall under that.
How big is that roof? That roof isn't very big. What was it?
16 by 32 for the record.
Is that a shingled roof or flat roof? Shingled,
Metal roof.
Metal, yeah.
that's metal roof?
Yes. I believe there is, when the fire escape was rebuilt on the back of the building, there was at least one or two new pieces of metal roof that were put underneath it, so that would not have to be reconstructed, but certainly looking forward to get this going and be able to use one of the rooms a little better.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Any other new or other business from the board?
Just like to comment on the plans there for Farmington. It's a decent-looking building, and looking at the plans, and Jeff and I were just commenting that you could easily take and construct that one half without all the bays for the fire equipment. Can easily construct all that at this point, and then at some point in the future add on and be able to put that rest of the building together. So certainly something we can further look into.
Yep. And I'm going to move to citizens' comments now anyway, so recognize Mrs. Katie.
I realize what you're saying, Fred, but I really think that you need to talk with the construction company and see if, and I understand it could be done, but would it cost you less to build part and then build the other part, or will it go up in cost because they've got to come back with all their crew and set up again and all of that stuff? The design build is because his son is the architect that did this design. And I also understand that the volunteer fireman at New Hampton has said he would give the plans his company drew up for their safety complex, which is quite a savings when you hire an architect, as you know. I left my book over there.
But just to comment on what Mrs. Katie was saying, yes, it definitely is cheaper to have it all done at one point in time, but the question would end up being, would the taxpayers be willing to bond a $2.5 million project versus a 1.5 or 1 3/4 or something?
Further citizens' comments? I wasn't sure if Mrs. Katie was done. Or...
I had a question on, is it that we're within a certain distance of the Gilmington Tower? I mean, I don't remember that us having it when our tower was built on Saddleback.
We are within a certain scope, and we get, strangely enough, we get invitations. We've had invitations from Londonderry, Belmont, Gilmington, places relatively far afield, and I would assume.
And
it's
we had
because
to
of
notice when we had the cell tower off of Candia Road at the Candia line.
Mm-hmm. That would be within a distance, but having worked in Gilmington for a bridge job, I think it's a little distant.
Other citizens' comments? Mr. Aslan?
Yes, in reference to the bicentennial field, which was brought to my attention by Ray, no one's told me about a problem. When there's a problem, they should address me so I can go fix it. I'm not a mind reader on this stuff here, okay? So the other thing is that it is up to the town to test these systems every week if they want. That's in our agreement. That's up to them to test it. It's not up to me to go to these buildings every week to test them. So, I mean, if you want us to do that, then obviously there's a charge for that, but that's not in what we do. What we do is we hook up the systems and, they work. Now, that's an unheated building. So in the wintertime, if it gets -2, it probably would have a problem. The only way you can rectify that is to put a key station in. And originally it wasn't done that way, and we just followed up on that. And the panel itself has a heater in it. So unless they tell us there's a problem, there's no way we know.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The second by Selectwoman McHugh, and we're done.
All in favor?
Oh, we can take a vote on it. Those
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.